to another episode of the Waffle Press TV Hangouts. I am your host, Diego Crespo, and with me I have my lovely co-host, Emily Sophia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty dang good. Got me a nice little seasonal sore throat, so that is happening. But
Oh
there's
no.
still it's all right. There's still plenty of good television out in the world, so that is a comfort to me and my aching insides.
Well, we have good news and bad news. Good news is, well, I guess two good news is for you. One,
Mhm.
we're doing this early for because of Thanksgiving reasons,
Yes.
and two, we're not talking about Last Man on Earth this week because someone didn't watch it, but that's okay. But
One of the
anyways,
two.
and this time it wasn't me. I won't point fingers, but it wasn't me. It wasn't me. But we are talking about The Walking Dead, Master of None. Now that we both finished that, and a little tidbit on our thoughts on Jessica Jones so far. I finished that. Emily has not. Her official thoughts are over on her channel, but this will remain spoiler free for Jessica Jones. Everything else, spoilers galore. So let's talk about
Yes.
The Walking Dead season 6, Heads Up, episode 7. Emily, what'd you think of it?
This episode definitely caught me off guard. Like, even though I have generally known what episode we've been at, and it's not like they've skipped a week or done anything weird, I found myself really caught off guard when, after that final minute, they're like, next week, the mid-season finale. I was like, the what? Come again? Yeah, I was totally flabbergasted by the end. And I think that the pacing of this first half of the season has been pretty different. I mean, we have had um seasons where we've done more backstory. For example, when we spent some time with the governor, like that entire episode, and then slowly worked our way back to the group. And so it's not like this is a new thing to kind of like have the group splintered apart. In fact, it's really not new at all. But there's just so many different elements to this season. So many different dynamics and new characters coming into play that it's just like, whoa. It's busy, it's crazy. But I liked this episode better, I think, than ones prior. It seemed like the tension in Alexandria, the different confrontations that we had were a bit more fleshed out, I suppose. It was actually really interesting to see Rick totally get called out on his bullshit, like time and time again. He's just like, he all but says like, I hate you guys. I don't care about you. I got my people. And yet, time and time again, Deanna's bringing him the plans for the expansion of Alexandria, and everybody's like, "Oh, don't give up on us yet." We're not too far gone. But yeah, Rick is really kind of a snob, kind of a jerk. I mean, I can't really blame him because a lot of people in Alexandria have made a lot of dumb choices, and they haven't really made a good case for themselves in terms of their ability to survive. But it looks, from this episode, this is one of the first times in a long time that it seems like they're genuinely trying, or that there are people in the community that are trying, even if they are kind of dummies. And so you would think that Rick, as the noble leader, would be applauding this and be like, okay, cool, we're all getting on the same page. Let's do this thing. Let's form up. But there are still those intimate kinds of family ties that he's got with his people that really aren't mirrored in what he's got with everybody else around him. So I laughed a lot because he was just like going ham on Tara, like, how dare you try to sacrifice yourself for like this meaningless idiot. And she's like, well, wait, we're all in this together, right? And he's like, gosh dang it. I hate you too. But yeah, so there's One Man Island Rick, and then we get a little time with Morgan, kind of debrief about the fact that his methods are a little unorthodox and quite possibly deadly. And it's a really good talk. Like, he doesn't get pissed off at them. He doesn't just storm off and leave and say, screw you guys, I can't deal with this. He's trying to make things work, and a lot of people are. Oh, and by the way, there's the matter of Glenn officially being back in the picture, and with Enid of all people too. So that was kind of an interesting little pair up to have them come back into things, and then throw up the green balloons. You think all is happy, and then just the silent falling of the giant tower. was just so, it was a really beautiful moment. Really beautiful up until, well, we know what the consequences are going to be, but it's a very interesting episode because they're setting up all these things, and now pretty much everything is on hold because they're all completely screwed. I don't know. It's gonna be craziness, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like this episode more than the previous ones we had been sort of complaining about as well. I'm still not on board with the Alexandria stuff as much as I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring up an interesting point that they're falling back in the old Walking Dead problems where conflict is arising out of plot necessity instead of character necessity again. And
Yeah.
it's a bummer because I thought we were past this once and for all, but I guess not. And it's just a bummer. I like the it's a very popular arc from the comics, or I guess a very big arc. It's called No Way Out. I guess that's pretty much what's been playing out over the course of these 7, soon to be 8 episodes, with the massive zombie horde assembling outside Alexandria, and then they get in, and things will be bad. And I guess that's what the mid-season finale is going to revolve around, is basically a giant disaster movie, whereas something like the farm or the prison is all about like escape. This one is about making a stand, and I think that's just a cool way to go about it. And ultimately, I hope it finishes a nice little mini arc within a season. And I can live with some of the stuff if they just clean house in the mid-season finale.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, these characters aren't really working out so well. This person might be here too long. Let's just cut them loose.
Yeah, now's the time, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna do it.
Yeah, Glenn, I'm glad Glenn's alive, and I think we're on the same page on this. It dragged on a little too long, though, the whole mystery thing, because it's cool to have a mystery, but there's got to be a point to it besides just mystery for the sake of plot. And you know, we all like Glenn, so we're glad he's alive. But the show dug itself into a no-win scenario, and
yeah. So it kind of took away from the victoriousness of seeing him crawl out from underneath. It's like, that's what we should have seen the week after, honestly. I mean, if not even within the same episode, like they could have really wrapped that up and kept things moving, but it wasn't necessary. It was an experiment on their part, but hopefully they've learned from that and can find different ways to shock and disturb us without frustrating, you know? Like there are different ways to play with the audience's expectations, and this was an exercise in patience that I think was quite undue for us.
Yeah, because Jessica Jones, we're going to talk about in full detail next week. That show managed to piss me off, but in the right way. I was like,
yes,
I was upset that the heroes weren't coming out on top. I wasn't upset at the show for doing stupid decisions, and they started doing that again in The Walking Dead, and I hate, like, man, they're so close to just like having another good run. Because season 5 I thought was pretty consistent. Season 4 was mostly consistent goodness, and maybe it was just a little slump again. And then when we get into the post zombie attack stuff, we'll be better a little bit. I'm just a little bummed that I haven't fully enjoyed these last couple Walking Dead episodes, but the show has proved that it can turn itself around real fast and really well. So more to that. Last on Earth, none of that this week, but you and I finished Master of None, Aziz Ansari's new show on Netflix, and I am a huge fan of it. I'm a huge advocate for it. I'll just lead in by saying I think this is the best thing Netflix has ever done, and I think it's the most important Netflix show because of what the dialogue it starts about race, sex, gender politics, and just modern. I guess it's contemporary. It's like the ultimate contemporary show, and how it talks about relationships and everything I'd already mentioned. Aziz Ansari affirms himself as one of the best modern comedians alongside Louis C.K., who I guess is the show's spiritual cousin is Louis, ultimately, in the way it handles the drama between the surreal, between the highly highly, I guess, unreal scenarios, because there's a few dream sequences. There's a couple of odd characters like Colin Salmon as Colin Salmon,
Yeah.
and his wonderful pitch to Aziz Ansari's character Dev about a movie where he stars as a man who turns into a car, and he'll call it Car Human. Yes, I really like this show for a bunch of reasons. But Emily, what did you think of Master of None? I was gonna say why'd you like it, but I'll let you go ahead.
It was so ridiculously poignant for me. I mean, just there were several episodes in particular that dealt with themes that are just so prevalent and relevant to what I've been going through. So you're so right to say that it is like the ultimate modern comedy. And even, you know, it's not strictly a comedy either, because it still has all of these drama aspects and like, but it doesn't necessarily pigeonhole itself into being one or the other. Like, it's silly and it's cathartic, and that's sort of what allows you to laugh. But a lot of this stuff is things that we see in our day-to-day lives too. So it really walks on this fine tightrope between comedy and drama, and draws really well from both of those genres, I think. And yeah, Aziz Ansari is just what a fabulous human being. Everything that he touches seems to turn to gold. I was just so charmed and so delighted. I think some of my favorite episodes, I really liked the one about babies. I liked the one about old people. That was really sweet. I liked the one about that kind of had the more feminist stance with the women that he was working with having to deal with all of these creepy guys following them home. And so he's trying to negotiate, like, dude, how do I stick up for these ladies? Like, how can I give them their share, you know? I really like the finale too, and just kind of how it encapsulates everything and, you know, sparks off into this whole new adventure. And it just made me so happy. I actually cried in that episode. I was really just kind of reflecting on my own life at that point. And so yeah, it's a really great template for like for people at our age and stage and generation, and even others beyond. You know, it's kind of got a little something for everybody, but especially for those of us who are at this point in time in the 21st century. This is all such real stuff. And for that reason, I can't recommend it highly enough. It was wonderful. I'm so glad that I gave it the time of day, and I would hope to see more of it.
Yeah, I don't see how you don't do a second season, especially because it's such a big hit for Netflix. I guess my favorite episodes are Parents, the Parents episode, because I really enjoyed the first episode, and I felt like it was still holding back for some reason, even though the first episode was really good. And then the second episode opens up with the flashbacks from Dev's parents and Brian's parents, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was a really cool device, because, you know, like, they say one thing to their son, and then there's all this precedent, all this history, all this background, all this culture, and then the kid's like, I'm actually busy. I'm just gonna go do this, and then they're like, okay.
Yeah, like it's funny, but it's kind of sad. It's sad. Yeah. That's the perfect encapsulation of the show too. It's a dramedy. It's a straight up dramedy.
Yeah.
But then the ultimate cap to that for me in that episode is when the title sequence starts, and it's Pete Rock and CL Smooth's "Reminisce" plays over the credits, and I lost my mind because I think that's a top 10 best songs ever made situation. Yeah. So on a personal level, I was like, oh my god, this show is life. The show is life now. Indians on TV, I adore, because earlier this year I wrote a big article on diversity for women and for people of color, and because I have felt that strain. I'm not an actor, but like when I was younger, I always thought, you know, there's not enough people like me, not enough kids who are Mexican or Mexican families. I think I'll change my name. I want to change my name when I'm older. And I thought that for so long because of that. There are all these characters named James or John or Bethany, and then something like Spy Kids came along, and then I was like, hey, they're like me, except with spy stuff. And Indians on TV reminded me of that, and it's just a really well done episode too. And it involves a tall, muscular man from Mumbai lactating, which I thought was, just a special type of funny that I wouldn't see anywhere else but this show. Ladies and gentlemen, the episode you brought up about feminism and seeing things from other perspectives, I think maybe one of the ultimate most important episodes from the show too, because I have a lot of friends who were like that, not the stalking the ladies home thing in the beginning, but they just couldn't see from another perspective, like, oh, I'm not like that, so I don't get your complaint. They're like, well, it's not about you, it's about everyone else. And I think that episode has really helped a lot of people see that. And then old people's basically the same episode, but for old people. Like, they sometimes they need help because they're older, but they don't need coddling, and they're still people, and they still have wants and needs and lives. And it's such a good episode. And all the little Rachel episodes too. I really like that character, and I like that relationship that they built, and it feels very human and flawed and beautiful in all the right ways. It's not romanticized at all. It's just it's very state of fact, and it's great. But on a more personal level, again, I love The Other Man because I am a huge Claire Danes fan, and I will take any opportunity for her to appear in anything ever.
Yeah, that was a really unexpected surprise. I saw her and I was like, oh, dang, there's Claire Danes. Go, go, go.
Yeah, that was a bonkers episode. I actually won't even talk about that one anymore because that one takes turns that I did not expect at all. So yeah, ultimately, Master of None. We don't really give grades here, but that's an easy A+ for me. Like, alongside Hannibal season 3, this is, I think, the best show I've seen all year. And there's another contender, but really quick before we move on to that, do you have anything else you want to mention about Master of None?
I don't think so. Other than that, I really, really hope for some more. And I was freaking impressed, and I loved it. And I feel better for having seen it. So I think everybody should.
Yep, you heard it here first, or probably not first, but we're hearing it again from two of the smartest people you know. And next show we'll discuss in very slight detail is Jessica Jones, another Netflix series tied in with the Marvel Universe. The spiritual sequel to Daredevil takes place in the same universe. There might be some references to him, but ultimately the shows stand on their own. And that's what I really love about Jessica Jones too. Emily, what did you think about Jessica Jones so far from what you've seen? Because I know you're not finished.
Yes, this show is blowing my mind. Like, I thought I loved Daredevil, and this is blowing that out of the water for me. So we are on a whole nother tier. And once again, I am just stunned at what the Marvel Universe is beginning to offer on the silver screen, like such immaculate storytelling, easily one of the scariest villains that I have ever seen on TV. Already I have got, I've got Hannibal Lecter and I've got Kilgrave sitting up there, Kissing. But just really, really mind boggled episode after episode. I mean, and this show is designed so well for binge consumption, mainly because they don't feel the need to make like silly cliffhangers episode after episode. It all just flows together like one brilliant novel. I so love Kristen Ritter in the role of Jessica Jones. I think that this is an awesome culmination of some of the other roles that she has played in years past. And I mean, it's a demanding performance too, because I mean, she is so tough, so hard-jawed, like she's got to hold it down, got to do what she does and take nothing for nobody. But then all of a sudden she will have this encounter with something that takes her back to her past, that just transports her back to this pain and this vulnerability and feeling out of control. And then she has to go back and start, repeating Bridge Street and all the, going back through all the street names of her childhood home. And so she is at once this incredibly strong and capable and funny and just astronomical woman who carries such unspeakable, unimaginable pain to the point that she has to like start punishing herself in order to save everyone around her. It's so twisted. It's so dark. Like I think darker than even Daredevil went with a lot of its thematic stuff. I was impressed for sure. Yeah, I can't wait for more. Like I am trying so hard to get to Wednesday because then I'll get to watch it again. But yeah, I am so in love. I love her and Luke Cage and how they're kind of weaving him into the story. And I won't say what part I'm at because who knows who's watching this and where they're at, of course, but a lot of a cool cast of characters, cool relationships, and of course a really, really scary, unnerving dynamic between Jessica Jones and the main villain. But yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. I'm only halfway through and I'm like, woo,
Yeah,
give me more.
Jessica Jones is, without saying too much, the majority of it, I honestly believe, is the best thing Marvel has ever done, live action.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best Marvel things, period, actually. In the terms of pantheon of Marvel stories, I think this is one of their pinnacles. The way it blends the subtext with the full on text, and this it's the superhero story aspect of it ties into the thematic story of it, and it's not just it's not giving giving the show an excuse to just have a bunch of big brawling fights. Like they're all there, and I think the show has just as impressive action, if not more, than Daredevil. I think the tracking shot everyone talks about in Daredevil is still maybe the most impressive live action fight scene they have, but the other stuff I think this show is easily on par with, if not more exhilarating. And yes, it is absolutely darker than Daredevil. I let my younger cousin watch it because his parents always ask me like whether or not he can watch something his age, and he's not that young. So I was like, yeah, Daredevil, sure, no problem. I would not recommend Jessica Jones because I think it's more violent.
Yeah.
And there's more sexual content, like significantly more. But the violence here is very specific and very different from what a young viewer could comprehend at their age. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't I wouldn't let a younger kid watch it. But I think that's actually where the show succeeds, where so many shows fail. Like we talked earlier this year about Game of Thrones season 5 and how that show's maybe its biggest flaw is how it consistently falls back onto rape for a shock value point, like early on in the season, or always around the middle point of the season, and then it just kind of glances over that, and that's it. Like it's just to shock you, and nothing comes of it. And Jessica Jones is in subtext and the text all about that. The way Kilgrave uses his powers, he can mind control people for viewers who don't know, and that's scary because that could be used for good. But someone so self-conceited and just a straight-up monster of a human being, that's terrifying. He's a master manipulator and the scariest villain this side of Heath Ledger's Joker. I think he's on par with Heath Ledger's Joker in terms of like scare factor. I am genuinely unsettled by that villain. Like I think around episode 3, again, no spoilers here, but there's conversations that occur, and I was unnerved watching it. Like, wow, well, chills. Like it's really cool and impressive that the show can pull that off. But like I'd want to talk to Kingpin. I'd want to talk to Ultron. I'd want to talk to Loki. I would never ever want to live in
Boo.
the same universe as this man. And it is an interesting way of bringing up a lot of other gender politics. Netflix is on a roll with this, by the way.
Yeah.
Applause to Netflix. But how basically Kilgrave is a crazy ex-manipulative boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And the subtext again is brought to the forefront through the superpowered stuff, and it's just so mind-blowingly good. And I love Daredevil too. This is hands down better than Daredevil for me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will not. I can't really say much more. We'll save it a lot for the spoiler talk. But I am a big fan of Jessica Jones. Very big fan.
Yes, as am I. And I so love what you brought up about the text and the subtext, and that there's nothing that ever needs to be screamed in our faces, but everything comes through so intense and visceral. Like when you pick up on what's going on, it will haunt the shit out of you. Like after watching this show for an extended period of time, I'm looking around corners, I'm looking at people, I'm like, is that really you? Like, is anyone really anyone? What is life anymore? It's very scary and very compelling, and definitely I think one of the highest quality and one of the smartest things that Marvel has ever done on the screen. And I'm a big fan. It's real good.
Yeah, and then next week, I believe we'll be able to talk about the entire season, spoiler heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep an eye out for that. Really quick, did you get a chance to watch the Legends of Tomorrow trailer?
I did, in fact.
Okay, we'll wrap up with this then. What did you think of that? Because you don't watch Flash or Arrow or any of that stuff. So I'm interested in your take on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks big and exciting and ambitious for sure. Kind of the setup of it reminds me of something like Days of Future Past scale, but more than that. I mean, I really can't compare the two. It's apples and oranges. They're clearly, I'm sure, doing their own thing. So I wouldn't really begin to actually compare them. But it's that, like, bringing all of these big time heroes together. I'm not really a huge, I don't know the DC comic universe as well, so I can't speak into it too much. I'm more kind of on like the Batman end of the spectrum, I suppose. But yeah, like I could feel just this like electricity from it. Like it is energetic. It is big. It is bombastic. Just from what I can tell, that little 3-minute trailer, that's the kind of thing that makes me think, why haven't I gotten into this already? Like, what am I doing here? Yeah, but it looks really dang cool from what I can tell. That's a heck of a trailer. Yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. One, I try not to bring this up as often as possible, but I wasn't a fan of Man of Steel from early word on what the DC universe is going to look like. It's going to look a lot like that, and that leaves me bummed out because I grew up with more DC heroes than Marvel. Spider-Man's always been my dude, but I always trended over towards like Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Flash. The show mostly got me into Green Arrow more and Justice League, the cartoon. But this is so cool because this is exactly what I want. This and Flash and the new rejuvenated season of Green Arrow where we have less stupidity and the worst part is just cleaning up the mess after last season. It's so good again. And it looks, I didn't even think about Days of Future Past, but this is basically Days of Future Past with DC characters that have been planted into the DC TV shows. And the way that they set up this show, I think a couple times Flash and Arrow have stumbled a bit this season, and the previous ones is when they had to introduce characters that were going to be in this show, even before we knew this show was coming. They're Yeah, so I was like, oh, why is this character here? That's weird. I like them, but it's weird. They're just here now. And then like, oh, they're doing a whole, they can't do Justice League because of the movies such, and they can't do Batman and Superman. So we're just going to introduce those elements without those characters. And it works for the most part. And a character like Vandal Savage, who I thought they won't use him in the movies. They don't want a shape-shifting alien Martian Manhunter. They're not going to use an immortal warlord. And so, fine, the TVs universe will use them, and it looks exciting. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited because Flash has been planting in time travel and multiverse such, and Arrow is been getting deeper into. It's basically Batman with Green Arrow show, but it's getting more into the magical side of the universe. Like Constantine was just on for people who like Constantine,
Right.
and so they're just combining all those elements into a really neat little package. And I am very interested to see what the show has in store for us because this is an awesome trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say.
And beyond that, I think we're done. Emily, where can people find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Mighty Sophia. That's EM, the word mighty, SOFIA, which is also my Facebook, which is also my Twitter. And if all else fails, you can find me on Twitter. I'm usually there most of the time. So, yeah, that's me. Oh, and also Real Film Chatter every once in a while. I've been busy, but I do some TV articles on there sometimes.
Yes, Real Film Chatter for me as well. Diego Waffles on Twitter, audienceseverywhere.net. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. We got some more videos coming out, a few more from Kamikaze, and then a couple of us hosted a screening of our buddy's short film called The Will. It is a zombie survival story. That panel will be coming out Friday, I believe. It's kind of a hectic week, Thanksgiving and all. I'm planning some other stuff, some Star Wars related goodness that we got to get started on. Otherwise, we won't make the Star Wars date, and that's kind of pivotal to what we try to do. So thank you for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.